but my website will have most of the information and the links to everything else. So sleep. Sleep is the great unknown. We know the least about sleep in both Eastern and Western medicine because it's something that we can't communicate our sleep. But there's been enough research around it to prove some very, very good facts that help prove Ayurveda. So Ayurveda is a 4,000 or 5,000 year old tradition, and it's the oldest living medicine or living form of medicine in the world. So it's been around for a long time. They believe that Chinese medicine even came from Ayurveda. But it's a beautiful practice, and what it does is it really helps us connect with nature's rhythms. So the idea is to be able to connect with nature in order to find balance. And over the next few months, I'll be going over different aspects of that and going a little bit deeper in what that means. But we'll keep things a little more on the Western-ish side today, but following the rules of Ayurveda. So our philosophy in Ayurveda is the day starts with the night before. So what I'm saying here is our day, so when we get up at 6 a.m. to start our day or earlier, our night actually starts at 6 p.m. when we eat our last meal. And what this does is it dictates how well we're going to sleep. So 6 p.m. is a really good point to start off your day, next day on the right foot. So that means getting home from work, winding down. If you have kids, they're going to have sports, they're going to have activities. Some of that stuff is going on, some of it's not going on because of various reasons, but we want to be able to wind down family time and not be doing a lot of work at this time. I know for some parents, it's really difficult because it's the quiet time, but it's also the time that we want to start unplugging and unwinding to be able to get the proper rest that we need. And then going to bed at 10 p.m., not much later. So 9:30 is great. Going to bed when your kids go to bed is even better because then you can get up even earlier. And the earlier times, because kids should sleep in a little bit later because they need 10 hours of sleep up until about the age of 18. How many 18-year-olds that get 8 to 10 hours of sleep, right? It really helps for cognitive function, though. Those of us that are a little bit older and experiencing sleep issues, we definitely know that our cognitive is not as bright as what it was when we were getting better sleep. But for kids, it's really, really important. It helps for their mood. It helps for their ability to be able to take in information, to be able to focus on schoolwork. I'm kind of wondering if a lot of these kids that have ADD, ADHD are being diagnosed with it is because they're sleep deprived. And it isn't because your parents are doing anything wrong. They just might not be getting quality sleep for some reason. And that's a big issue. But as adults, we still have some control over what we do. So if you're staying up till midnight, you're missing out on some really key factors of what the night offers. So you go to bed at 9:30, lights out by 10 or 10:30 at the latest. I mean, lights out. And we're not sitting there watching TV in our bedrooms. So I'll talk about that a little bit later in the lecture. But this time of night between 10 and 2 a.m. is the key time for our body to be able to process the day. So during the daytime, we take in input through our senses, our eyes, our ears, our nose, our mouth, our sense of touch. So we bring in a lot of sensory perception. At night, we digest that perception. During the day, we have our stress. At night, we process our stress. For those of us that have vivid dreams, we're processing them really fast and they're projecting. So we're actually getting a video recording of that. The thing about digesting our stress at night is there's not an emotional attachment to them. Now, I understand that nightmares happen and stuff like that. That's a whole different imbalance. But when I'm talking about dreams or not even remembering your dreams, you're still processing and digesting the day. So we digest the day. We also detoxify. So our body is releasing the toxins from our cells. And it's the only time it does that. And it's also repairing our cells, it's repairing our muscles, it's repairing our tissues. And if we're not getting sleep, we're not getting that because our body can't do it when we're standing or moving or awake because our body needs to have another system to be able to do that. And I'll explain that because melatonin is the key in that system process. So we sleep through the night. And then through this time, our body starts to want to push the toxins out. That's why it's ideal to have your bowel movement about an hour after rising. So if you get up at 6, by 7 o'clock, you should be able to have a bowel movement. If it's going to this time or to the evening, then there's some issues. And usually it has to do with hydration. So I highly recommend, if you're not drinking hot lemon water in the morning, start doing it as a routine. Squeeze the lemon. You can get the insides out too if you want to, but don't put the outside in there, because the outside actually makes it super bitter. So we want to be able to hydrate in the morning, because it does set us up for a pretty good day if we're hydrated right in the morning. If we start out dehydrated, everything else kind of snowballs, and that's a whole nother lecture. We'll probably talk about that a little more next week. I think some stuff on nutrition is next week. So go through the night, sleep, get up in the morning. I'm going to talk about melatonin now. So melatonin is what most people think as a sleep hormone. It is not a sleep hormone. It really has nothing to do with sleep, but it has something to do with our systems turning on and shutting off. It's not a hormone. It acts like a hormone. It is a molecule. The difference is that when we take supplemental hormones like progesterone, estrogen, testosterone, when we take supplemental hormones, our body shuts off the production of it. So it affects our body's ability to be able to produce it. Melatonin is different, because when we start taking melatonin, our body will actually recalibrate and learn when to release melatonin. We do not release melatonin during the day. We are not nocturnal animals. We sleep at night, we're awake during the day. And those of you that call yourself night owls, you've just trained yourself to be awake at night. It's not a real thing, because it doesn't make sense in nature, like how our being is, and the way that our body detoxifies and gets rid of toxins. So we want to make sure that we're releasing melatonin as the sun's starting to go down. This is why connecting with nature is so important. When you get up in the morning, being able to sit in front of a window and take in the sun's rays or take in the light is important. And then at night, it's important to be able to start winding down. So that means getting darker and darker. And as you get closer to bed, even shutting lights off in the house. And this helps families to be able to wind down too. So those of you with kids and they have issues winding down, get them off the devices, get them reading books, and start winding the lights down. The less light you can get in, the more likely your body will produce melatonin. The more light you get in, it stops melatonin production by 50 or more %. And that just depends on the person and how well their system is connected with nature. So if you're really detached from nature, especially in the winter, it can be very difficult. I understand. I'm a Minnesota girl. I'll be here my whole life. I love winter. I'm glad it's cold out. It doesn't affect me much. I have gear to be able to walk around in. I went for a walk today. Didn't even pull out my hardcore winter gear yet. So it's not cold enough yet. But so I understand that some of you don't like it, and that's perfectly fine. And some of you probably don't even live here in Minnesota anymore. So, but anyway, going back to sleep, we want to be able to release melatonin somewhere when the sun starts to go down. And then we want to be hitting some peaks in through, well, we hit peaks right in here between 2 and about 4 o'clock. And that's when our melatonin peaks, and then it stops producing. Part of the aging process, though, is that our body does struggle a little bit starting to produce melatonin. So our pineal gland, which produces melatonin in our brain, actually starts to calcify. And this means that it doesn't produce as much melatonin. Melatonin is also produced in our digestive system, which is absolutely fascinating. But because it's a molecule that acts like a hormone, it has a lot of things to do with our digestion, which is a whole nother conversation. We want to make sure that we're producing the melatonin the best that we can. And if we have poor digestion and we're getting older, so I'm saying 45, 50-ish in age, that means that our pineal is starting to calcify. And there's not a lot of things you can do about that. It's just part of the aging process. But you can take a little supplemental melatonin. There's nothing wrong with taking a little bit. And when I say little bit, I mean 0.1, 0.3 milligrams, not 1, not 5, not 10, not 20. The more is not the better. When you take too much melatonin, you'll know, because A, you'll wake up groggy in the morning like you took a medication. B, you'll have very vivid dreams. So hopefully you just get to the vivid dream part, because it can be kind of fun, but they'll go and they'll kind of turn into kind of intense dreams after it's too much. And then you just start backing off. So when I work with clients on sleep, we introduce a little bit of melatonin and we start building it up to the point where they notice that their dreams are getting very vivid. And then we start pulling back, because then we know their body's starting to produce it. That's why when people go on melatonin, they say, oh, I was on melatonin for a while and then it wasn't working anymore. Yeah, that's a good thing, because what's happening is your body's starting to produce it. And then you don't need to take as much. Instead of, in the Western culture, a lot of times we think the more the merrier, we take more melatonin, because it's not happening. It's not a hormone. It doesn't do the same thing. So melatonin is so fascinating. There's so much really intense research on melatonin and breast cancer, and melatonin and breastfeeding, and then the importance of it, and the importance of mamas when they go to bed and then they wake up in the middle of the night to be able to feed baby, not turning lights on or keeping things super low. Because once you shut off mama's melatonin production, you shut off baby's ability to be able to get melatonin, to teach it how to get melatonin, to get on a sleep cycle. Fascinating research, but I will continue to move forward. So I would recommend, if you're going to take melatonin, take it about an hour before you go to bed. You can take it all the way up until. It's not going to make that much of a difference. You just want to teach your body how to take it. Very, 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 very low dose, unless somebody else has told you differently. And melatonin is not regulated. So just because it says what it is, if you're not getting a good source, it's still probably not what it says it is. So make sure that you're getting a good source of melatonin. Let's talk a little bit about chamomile. So chamomile is dried and used in teas. I use it in my teas. I have a tea company. It's called Rue Teas. And this is chamomile. This one's kind of a flaky chamomile. The little buds have kind of lost some of their luster. But chamomile is a very, very small flower. It grows in the wild. On the prairie, it'll be a super short, like shrubby plant that has one flower per plant. The German and the Roman chamomile is much longer and danglier. It has a really long stem with a much larger flower on the top. So the wild stuff is a little bit, no, it's very bitter. I can't even relate it to the Roman and the other chamomiles. They're so much better in flavor. But chamomile by itself can be pretty potent. And I wouldn't recommend just taking chamomile. My tea's got a bunch of other herbs in it also that help to balance out the taste of chamomile, because it can be such a bitter taste. There's benefits of consuming chamomile, and some of the benefits are for menstrual pain. So especially if you have it at night, when you're sleeping, have a lot of pain and cramping when you're sleeping. And this goes for muscular pain and cramping too. So calf cramps, that kind of thing. It can act a lot like taking magnesium without some of the magnesium side effects of loose bowels in the morning or during the night. It can also help for some anxiety and stress, but this also relates to the fact that it can help for sleep. And the sleep stuff is really interesting because it functions somewhat, and this research has been found to prove that it functions something like the benzos, because it attaches or it goes to the benzo receptors, which is really fascinating because benzos are really pretty intense medicine. And they're pretty addictive, and they don't really do a whole lot. They do something, but they don't get you the deep sleep that like an herb would allow, because an herb is natural. It's what nature gave us, not what a man created. And I'm not going to tell you to go off if you're using sleeping aids, that's great. You have to do what you have to do to get sleep. But there are other ways to be able to maybe add other things to be able to incorporate that and maybe get off them. But it also can help for colds. So if you have a cold, you can take chamomile oil. There's way other better herbs, I think, for colds. And, vitamin D is always a really good one. And then skin conditions. So eczema and like rashes and inflamed skin. And this is partially because it's related to some of the other flowers like the calendula and marigold, and they're all kind of in the same family of what they do for skin conditions. Reducing inflammation in the body. So there's been some research done that it helps to reduce inflammation, which is really pretty cool. And if you think of inflammation, usually inflammation has pretty much everything to do with skin conditions, with diabetes, with blood sugar issues, with menstrual pain. When we look at it from an Ayurvedic perspective, it definitely is an herb that does something to help relax the body. And we don't have a lot of research with it, but Western medicine does and has helped us out quite a bit. For cancer treatment and prevention, there's been some research around that, which I think that they're pretty much looking at everything right now to be able to cure cancer or help for treatment of cancer, meaning that, you know, your body is able to take the treatments and be able to relax and things like that, because it's very stressful. I mean, even being a family member who with a parent that went through cancer treatments, it was just like, you know, the stress on us was enough. I can't imagine going through the treatments myself. And there might be some of you that have went through those treatments. And any way that you can help your body relax a little bit is good. Just like any other herb, there are some side effects, but this one doesn't really have as many side effects as what it does. If you are allergic to chamomile, don't take it. If you're allergic to a lot of flowers that are like chamomile, probably not the best herb for you. And what you do is you try it, and if you have a little bit of a reaction, that's fine. You don't have to try it. There are plenty of other herbs out there that are very good for sleep also. But it's not safe for everybody. So if you have, again, high allergens to flowers, definitely not the best choice. There's plenty of other beautiful herbs out there. And then the more potent the tea, the more benefits have been shown to be in the chamomile. All right, go back a little bit to sleep. So some of the sleep hygiene things that I work with my clients is we talk about preparing for your evening. So I talk about the bookend philosophy. It means you start and you end your day the same. And I'm pretty strict on this in my life now because, well, after I turned 40, and I've got a handful of you on right now on Facebook that are the same age as me. I graduated with half of you. And so it's getting to the point, and I know you understand this, when you turn 40, it's like things are just a little different. And I'm not saying bad. I love my 40s. They're way better than my 30s and my 20s. My 30s were a show. We'll just call it a show right now. And so my 40s have been very inspiring, even with all that's went on and all the changes that have happened in my life. I'm very thankful for my 40s. But with that has come more mindfulness around, what do I want to do with the rest of my life? And I looked at that and said, I want to be really healthy. My great grandmother lived to be 106, or 105. So I could push that easily. And especially having a healthy lifestyle, I wanted to make sure that I want to be as healthy as possible. So I want to be gardening like she was when she was 96, 97, 98 years old, because she was fantastic. So that's what I want. That's what I see for myself. I don't see myself dying in a nursing home by myself. That is not my goal in life. So I thought to myself, what do I need to do? And really adapting this to my life. And I'm not perfect. Oh my gosh, once in a while I go out a little bit. Well, COVID doesn't kind of shut all that down, but I'll go out, or I'll have a beer at night with a friend or something like that. And those aren't going to be the things. It's what you do. 70-30 is usually the rules. I'm probably more at the 80-20. I still eat pizza. I love pizza, but I'm strict about the times that I eat. And I used to eat at this 9:30 time. If I don't eat by 6:30, I don't eat. I fast for the night. So looking at how your routine is in the evening, do you come home from work, prepare the meal? Those of you that cook for the family, cook the meal, cook a big meal, eat it at like 8 o'clock, and then go back to work once you put your kids to sleep, or whatever happens. They go watch TV or whatever they do. What do you do in the evening, and making sure that those help you to have better sleep. Another thing is making sure you don't have a TV in your bedroom. So this is why this is the Ayurvedic philosophy, and then also my philosophy for modern life is think about the rooms in your house. Okay, in the kitchen, you cook, you prepare meals, depending on the size of your kitchen. If you have a dining room, you eat there. Then you have your living room. That's your living space where you watch TV, where you visit with people, socializing, that kind of thing. Bathroom, we know what we do in the bathroom. Would you bring your toaster into your bedroom? No, you wouldn't. Why do we bring our TV into our bedroom? It's stimulus because we're taking in sensory perception. Keep the TV out of the bedroom. And there's a bunch of research around other reasons why, but just because we want to keep that a sanctuary for sleep. If sleep is something you're not getting, and you're not rested when you wake up in the morning, you're not getting the right amount of sleep. And it might not be the amount of time even, it might be that you're not getting deep enough sleep. And we should be getting between 7 and 9 hours of sleep. So this time of year, technically, we're supposed to be getting 8 to 9. During the summer, 7 to 8 is fine. But that 7 to 8 to 9 hours is key. Our body needs to go through the whole process, just like being awake. We need to go through our processes during the day, and it needs that time to be able to do that. If we're getting less and less sleep as we age, we're going to notice that our body is going to wear down faster. So if you want to wear down your body faster, keep on going to bed at midnight, because you'll hit it. When you hit 50, things will change even more. And I hope to hit 50 and say, I feel better than I did in my 30s. So we'll see what happens, right? You guys will probably be able to watch it all, me all perform it on all these social media platforms. But so think about your sleep hygiene at night. So what are you doing to prepare for your night like you would prepare for the day? And a lot of times what I do is I go for a walk about an hour before I go to bed. So 8:30, depending on when I have my last lecture, have my last thing of the evening. Sometimes 9, and me and the dog just go around the block. But I do a little walk before I go. I connect with the darkness of the night, as dark as the city can get. I mean, I live in Minneapolis. And so I go for a walk in the park, and he gets some fresh air, and we both get a little bit of fresh air before we go to bed. Then I'm a shower at night. I shower at night instead of in the morning. I like to go to bed in clean sheets and fresh skin and oil on my skin. I'm a big oiler. It's a whole nother topic. And then that's when I wind down. But before I do that, I also prepare for my next day. So not a whole big production, but what I do is a lot of times I teach earlier in the morning. So I have my 7 o'clock yoga class that I teach, and I'll lay out my yoga mat and put my stuff out so that when I wake up in the morning, I don't even have to think about that. So if you're somebody that wants to get an exercise routine, that's something that you can do, is make sure that you have your tennis shoes out or your boots to be able to go for a walk, and then have your stuff ready. If you have a family, have some of those things ready, because when you wake up in the morning and you're waking up frantic, you're already starting your day on the wrong foot. Where if you wake up in the morning and you can just kind of flow into your day, you're going to notice that the rest of your day is going to flow, and that if stress comes your way, you're going to be able to deal with it better, especially with a good night's sleep. So bedroom, make it a sanctuary for sleep. Sleep and sex. I mean, those are the two things that go on in a bedroom that should be going on in a bedroom. Otherwise, the things that we bring in are also going to distract us from the sleep. The people that have insomnia and have really bad sleep issues, when you start bringing devices and things into your bedroom to be able to sleep, you've created that, okay, this is work, and our brain doesn't really know the difference. It'll say, oh, okay, we're working now, I need to start thinking, versus winding down and going to sleep. If you use your phone as an alarm clock, which does happen, I use mine as an alarm clock if I need an alarm clock. Most of the time I don't. But if I need an alarm clock, then what I do is I make sure that it's on airplane mode so that there's no vibration, there's no signals. I shut my phone off at a certain time. And most people, my clients, know that about me, that I shut down and they're not going to be able to get a hold of me. I am not that important. There's nothing that can't wait till the next day. Something happens with my family, I'm still 300 or 250 miles away. So I'm not going to get down there too fast anyway. That's such is life. So I just feel that, my sleep is more important than me anticipating that something's going to happen down at the farm. So I shut things completely down. I know some of you have, kids, and then if they're going out and you want to make sure that they're safe, I get it, but just be mindful of how often that happens and the amount of time that it ruins your sleep. Another thing is, if you have sleep issues around that 2 o'clock time, that is an issue. That's a sleep issue, because we get some pretty important sleep in this area, and when you lose your sleep, you can't get it back. It's not like, oh, I can recover and get back, have a longer night's sleep tomorrow night. It's kind of done. I mean, you had the opportunity last night to be able to do it. So really try to get to bed at a decent time, and don't watch TV all the way until you go to bed. You take that time to wind down and slow things down and slow your senses down. Ayurveda is big on the senses. Like that's part of our philosophy is how much or how little you stimulate your senses. And there's a delicate balance of that. And that's a whole nother talk. But anyway, so that's a little bit about my view or Ayurveda's view, and then a little Western dabbled in with that about